back. Today we're going to be talking about 3 reasons why your chest isn't growing. Even though you're smashing weight out in the gym and you think you're doing everything that's right, but here's 3 reasons why it might not be growing, or you might not be getting the most benefit for what you're doing, and just things you could tweak to improve. So I'm going to put my normal chest workout over the top. I think it was filmed last week. Just hopefully some of the things will align and I can put on the screen where if it's something I'm talking about that I think I can see. But anyway, number 1 is that you are using weight. I'm going to change that. We're going to make it that you're not selecting the correct weight for what you're doing. So, because it works both ways. If you're always doing lightweight and really, you're never pushing that, at a point where you should up the weight, that can work against you. But probably what you see more with chest training is people who are using weight they can't handle. They're not placing anywhere near as much emphasis on their chest as they could do if they lowered the weight and, executed the exercises better and with more control. So it works both ways, but I think this manifests in a lot of different ways. If you first talk about a barbell bench press, unless you've got bad shoulder problems, if you're not touching the bar to your chest, that's a problem. If you're talking about a flat dumbbell press, if you're not utilising the extra range of motion you've got over a barbell press, and you're putting dumbbells to here, let's say. I mean, you can literally, the lighting isn't great, but you can see anyway. If I pull dumbbells to here, there's a bit of a stretch in my chest. If I put them all the way here, that is a much more of a stretch there. That is a much more benefit I will get from an exercise if my goal is growing my chest. If a goal is to quarter rep a dumbbell bench press because it makes you feel better, then, please yourself. But another way it can be shown is if your shoulders are creeping forward when you're doing any kind of pressing movement. So flat barbell, flat dumbbell, incline barbell, any sort of machine press, anything. If your shoulders are really creeping forward and you're not resetting them, you're not keeping them back so that you can place more emphasis on your chest, that's going to be a problem. So essentially, I suppose the bottom line of it is don't ego lift, but manage to push yourself, which is a difficult skill to find. But I think you'll see a lot, I see so many people and it always seems to be the same weight. It always seems to be 50 kilo dumbbells. I don't know if it's because they're the heaviest dumbbells in most gyms. So people really build up about getting to them, and then they do a set and it just looks horrible. And the thing is, I'm not professing to be perfect. If you want to look at the clips that I'm posting and then try and claw them apart, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but everyone has things to learn. But I think you're really leaving, if you're going into a session, you see people who really care about it, really love it, and they're putting in that work, but then you're kind of doing these relatively small things that can be changed quite easily. It's not that they're small, but they can be changed easily. Then there's just no point. You might as well take the extra benefit from doing it correctly. That's the way I see it anyway. So that's the first reason. You've got to select a more appropriate weight and focus on the execution. Focus on placing the emphasis on your chest rather than how much weight you're moving. That is the goal. You're watching this because you're going, oh, my chest isn't getting bigger, not because you're trying to increase the weight. Just think about execution, think about emphasis, think about the ultimate goal here, which is growth. Anyway, the second reason is, what was the second reason? That's a good question. There's a pigeon. I'll tell you that out. There's a pigeon. The second reason is that you're not altering your rep schemes, and I see this one a lot. And I don't know where this idea came from. Fuck me. I don't know where this idea came from, but you see people and they're obsessed with hitting 10 reps. And I see it. The guy I train with now, a mate of mine called Kasim, he films all the videos, so everything is basically down to him. But as we've been training over the past few weeks, I've had to really get out of this mindset with him that it matters about 10 reps. So to put a practical example on it, we would do barbell bench press. He would do one plate, 60 kilos, for 10 reps, and then not even a minute later, so not much rest time, just remember that, he would do maybe 8 reps, and then the next set maybe 7, and he would get really annoyed about that. And I could see him when it was getting close to the end of the set, he'd maybe try and cheat a rep, he'd maybe try and cheat the 6th or the 7th in order to try and get to that 10. See, now for me, my approach to training has always been it's quality over quantity. So I'm not thinking about getting 10 reps. It's this study that goes around loads if you're on sort of any kind of social media, is that there's not much difference between 6 and 30 reps in terms of muscle growth. What matters is the relative intensity. What matters is at the end of the set, how many more could you do? If it's not many, if it's complete failure, if there's 1 rep maybe you could do, that's good. That's progress. And if you're, say you were talking in the example of my friend Casey, if he's doing 10, 8, 7, so then he's got 25 reps, I have to work that out really. And then next week, he manages to get 26, or even he gets 25, but the form's better and the quality is better. There's so many ways to progressively overload that it can't just be focusing on 1 rep scheme. It can't just be focusing on doing something one way. And also then if you do want to increase the weight, lower the reps. And you can feel like when you get to a point of maybe plateauing, you can feel like you're progressing. So my approach for the last few weeks, I think I did, I started this kind of few weeks of training, and I do 140 for 4, and then I was trying to up this. So I was trying to do 135 for 5, 130 for 6, and these sort of things. So the weight was always moving. So every session, it's not the most technical of points, but it does matter, is that every session felt different. So it felt more exciting in a way, felt fresher, because the weight I was using was different, and it was always a different rep scheme. So it's a different mentality for doing those different rep schemes. And also people are like, oh, should it be 8 to 12, or should it be lower reps or whatever? They're different things. So if you're training chest and you're doing flat press, you're doing incline press, you're doing a machine press, chest flies, those sort of things. I'm never gonna say do a set of 4 for chest flies. That would be insane. So you haven't got to marry yourself. There's this idea that you've got to marry yourself to a rep scheme if you're doing this, whereas you can really vary them throughout a session. And I think that's something that holds a lot of people back, because they're thinking in this mindset of I've got to do this rep scheme, otherwise it's not muscle, it's not focusing on muscle, it's not focusing on growth, hypertrophy, that sort of thing. It is vary it, do your sets of 15 for chest flies, do a set of 6 for flat press, do a set of 8, like keep it moving. And I always will say this, it's a smaller point, but just track your workouts, obviously progressively overload, you're trying to do more each week. But don't think you've got to be 10 reps for every exercise. Don't think you've got to be 12 reps, anything. There's no fixed rep scheme that you need. Okay, right. So the third reason is... Why do I keep thinking? Okay, so the third reason is you're not doing the bread and butter exercises that have made everyone's chest bigger that's done them, basically. They're tried and tested, they're very proven. And I'm trying not to rant about this, because it has been pissing me off recently. Is that whenever you go on, if you go on TikTok, any of them, everyone's trying to be different. So everyone's trying to get their voice heard. So there's this huge sort of focus on optimization. And I think it's confusing a lot of people that are especially new to things. And they're drawing some study that was done on 12 people in 1974 that said, maybe a machine press has 0.25% more muscle activation than a flat press, than a dumbbell press or a bench press. And I think there is genius in simplicity, and flat dumbbell presses, bench presses, barbell presses, and incline presses, they work. They just do. I'm not saying you can't make progress with machines, and I know there's a lot of bodybuilders that will go that route, but they'll meticulously track what they're doing. They'll meticulously track obviously their food and their training and progress these exercises. They'll know the exact machines they're using. It's a lot more of a detailed process. I'm more talking to someone who's just started and is saying, oh well, no, I've actually heard that bench press isn't the best thing for growing your chest, and it's like the internet at the moment is, well, forever probably, is set up in a way that if you really want to find somewhere where your point of view is validated, you will. It exists somewhere. And it doesn't matter how ridiculous that point of view is, it exists. So my main point here, I'm not trying not to go too far away from it, is that bench pressing will grow your chest. Incline pressing will grow your chest. And if you see anyone saying, oh, but you know, I've heard this is better, I've heard this, don't get confused in it. Do the bread and butter. Like my chest is the strongest part of my physique. Part of that is genetic. Can't lie about that. Big part of that is genetic. It runs in my family and that sort of thing. I had a bigger frame and a bigger, I suppose, more amount of tissue on my chest even before I did any sort of weight training. But that being said, my chest training has always revolved around flat barbell bench pressing and incline dumbbell pressing. Always. For 4 years now. 4.5 years. And it's always revolved around these things and just getting stronger over time, to the point now where maybe I've tried it, but my 1 rep max on bench was 150 a couple months ago. I'd hope it maybe could be a 155 now, not now because my hand's injured, but in time, do you know what I mean? And it's like, I'm not saying that's the most impressive thing ever. Like, again, show me some 17-year-old kid that benches more than that, I get that. But I'm saying that progress has been made by sticking to the basics, by sticking to what has worked, what will always work. And if those exercises don't exist in your chest sort of plan, your chest workouts, and you're someone sitting there going, it's not really happening for me, what can I change? Introduce them. Just because someone said they might not be the most optimal thing ever, and it might be this one machine in one gym in Venezuela that has, you know, this specific thing which activates a tiny % more muscle fiber. Don't worry about that. Stay simple. Look at all the like if you bench 3 plates, you most likely have a big chest. If you bench 2 plates for reps, you probably do as well. I'm sure there are some people that maybe can and don't look like they can. And there's always going to be those people, but focus on the basics and get good at them before worrying too much about how to make everything perfect, about the perfect diet. Everyone's so obsessed with this at the moment. Just stick to the basics, get good at them, get good at the skill. Because the thing is, even if you move on and you don't always flat barbell bench press and you don't always do it, maybe you do move on to something more of a machine press and you work more with, like, you know, having a certain amount of plates per side and you progress that way. The positioning that you learn and the skill of engaging your chest whilst doing these exercises that are the bread and butter, as I call them, it has a great carryover to doing those things later down the line. So go with the basics and get good at them. And after that, maybe you reassess things, but don't neglect them because someone said they might not be the greatest thing. Just stick to what is known and what is definitely does work. Right, yeah, that's going to end it there. No, that's the end. I hope that there's some benefit in that to someone. They're quite standard things. I tried to make them as things that could apply to a hell of a lot of people. But yeah, let me know in the comments if there's anything else. Let me know in the comments if you disagree, if you think that, you know, barbell pressing sucks because you saw that one guy tear his pec and now you're terrified. It is what it is. But I will see you hopefully with, I think it's a leg workout next. So maybe we'll talk about something with legs. Who knows? Right. See you next time.